Begin. Greetings. This is part 2 of the Fraudulent Foreclosure series that we are actually just starting. The first segment was about 15 minutes, and then my mother actually had to go and tend to my grandmother because she is her caretaker and her guardian. Well, she's not the guardian. I'm actually the trustee and the guardian now because of um, because we actually had to work some things out um, and for the tribe. And so, as the trustee, based upon our tribal status, I am actually the legal guardian. But my mother is her caretaker, and I guess like officially she's still her legal guardian anyway. Because like as she indicated, this is her mother. She is blood. This is by blood, and this is what we do as family. We take care of each other. We do not turn our family members over to strangers. We do not put them into these senior living facilities, especially when they do not have all of their faculties. That's just not what we do. So there still are some of us who remain, who adhere to the culture of our ancestors.
That's right.
Where we take care of our family members no matter what.
That's right.
Okay, so we are going to pick up with continuing with the unfolding of the series of events that led up to the October 6th, 2021 tactical force of the Philadelphia Sheriff's Department, just coming at us in a very inhumane manner, and just ready, willing, and determined to murder us. They came ready, willing, and able, and said out of their own mouths that was what they were there to do. Especially the individual, I believe his name is Sheriff Daly. He was very very clear and very forward about his intentions and what they were going to do. Okay, so we're going to continue with the interview and the discussion, because it's important that we get this information out, that we inform people of what is happening. There are a lot of changes that are happening in the world today, a lot of changes, and there are a lot of individuals who have been sounding the alarm, blowing the shofar. All praise to Yahuwah. We neglected to acknowledge Yah when we return, but all praise to Yahuwah. These times are very prophetic, and Jacob's trouble is definitely here. The enemy is definitely not going to step aside or take his boot off our necks. Even in these days leading up to the last days. I am not an expert on providing information regarding where we actually are, but what I do know is what it is that I have seen and what it is that I am hearing. And as scripture says, let those who have ears hear, and those who can see. And so we have been experiencing firsthand many of the horrific changes, attitudes, that the descendants of the colonizers, the colonizers themselves, because we are under occupation. We are under occupation, and that is just, those are the facts. This is not what we believe, especially those events that occurred on October 6th, 2021. And so I will allow for my mother, Miss Harmon'El, to continue and to pick up where she left off regarding these individuals who were committing a fraud, engaged in a fraudulent transaction involving a $10,000 loan. Okay, so you can continue with this loan. Like, what is what was the situation regarding the $10,000 loan?
The $10,000 loan was taken out by these Caucasoids, white men, and I believe that they was all in connection with one another. I do not believe that the company that wrote the paper out and sent it to my mother, I do not believe that they did not know what they was doing. I believe it was all connected. Everybody was on board.
Okay.
It was the men that came in.
So they were all
it was the people
collaborating,
that together.
And there was a conspiracy.
A conspiracy together.
Yes. Where you had numerous individuals who were all involved in defrauding. My grandmother, her mother.
Absolutely. Because first of all, if the loan company wasn't so busy being a part of it, it wouldn't have been so easily for them to just tear it up and be like, oh no, that's okay, we're not going to do that. They would have said to me, oh, your mother, she okayed this. No, they didn't say anything of the sort.
Okay, and so that the viewer is clear regarding the loan that we are discussing. This loan has nothing to do with the fraudulent mortgage that is also a part of this discussion that we're having, but there are a series of predators. There are a series of predators who were involved in my grandmother's life before my mother became her legal guardian. And after she became her legal guardian, when she began to just investigate her finances and clean up a lot of stuff, because there were a lot of issues regarding my grandmother's finances because of a lot of these individuals who had been defrauding her. And so this was, remember, timeline-wise, because allegedly, okay, the Flagstar mortgage that my grandmother entered into, okay, was dated
allegedly
2011. Am I correct?
Yes.
2011. 2014, my grandmother this is when my mother goes to my grandmother's home, and there are these white men who are in her home waiting for her to return from the bank so that they can steal money from her.
Absolutely.
Okay, so just in a matter of, and we'll have all of the documents in a subsequent video. Right now we are presenting the facts, and then we are going to present our evidence. Okay, but we just want to just make sure that the viewer is clear regarding the events that have happened. Okay, so this is the situation involving the $10,000 loan. Okay, so then what happens? So how do we get to the mortgage issue now?
I believe all of it and all of them are connected. I really do believe that.
And why do you believe that?
I believe that.
What evidence? Because we may have some viewers who who feel or think that the belief regarding a situation is not factual. It's not the truth. So what is it? What factual legitimate evidence do you have that all of these con individuals are perhaps colluding and that they are conspiring?
It is an industry. It is an industry. I believe it's an industry because one hand evidently is washing another. It's because they it's like the timelines, the events. It's like everything is just going hand in hand, and you just can see it.
Mm-hmm.
You notice things. When I there's it's just I was thinking before too. Also, the fact of the matter is that when I initially started helping mommy and everything, if she so much allegedly was given all this money, why is it that she had so many unpaid bills and debts and everything?
Okay, so now we're talking about the mortgage. We're talking about the mortgage that my grandmother allegedly entered into with Flagstar. Um, and the mortgage was allegedly for $70,000, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that was the alleged amount. And when you review the documents, there is no indication that the funds were ever received. Okay, there is, we contacted, I specifically, because I was involved in assisting with the discovery. Okay, I was helping my mother with the estate. Remember, I am the trustee. I created a trust and I became the trustee of my grandmother's estate. And so we are both working together. Excuse me, my grandmother is in another room and we just heard some movement sounds. Okay, so that's not grandma. Okay, we're cool. We're cool. But so as the trustee, it's my responsibility to make sure that all the financial, the finances for the estate are in order. And so we're investigating, all these bills, unpaid bills, and we're taking our own funds and paying bills, that were not paid. Okay. And so as a part of the investigation, we contacted my grandmother's bank, okay, which was not difficult to do because the majority of the indigenous people in my family actually bank at the same bank, okay? So we contacted the bank, just a general question, okay? They provided us with a letter. The letter was submitted to the court in response to a lawsuit that Flagstar through Matrix Financial filed against my grandmother and my mother. Okay, so the plot thickens. The plot thickens because of, as my mother indicated, the the number of individuals whose hands are actually in the pot of this scheme. In order for this scheme to work, you need certain industries to go along with this, okay? And that is a fact, all right? It is a fact. And that fact was uncovered when during the lawsuit, which led to one of the attorneys requesting that I in no way be a part of the case and for all the attorneys on the matter to not have to deal with me at all, because I began to ask the tough and real questions. And in asking those questions, they did not want to respond to them. Their primary question was, who is helping you? That is what they wanted to know.
Exactly.
They wanted to know, for the record, who is helping you, because they were expecting, like so many other times in the past, and one of the lawyers, Michael Baumstein, and yes, I am going to say names because this is all a part of the record, and the courts helped them to do this. The Court of Common Pleas helped them, okay? Michael Baumstein, who has been practicing law for about 45 years, okay, which is the age that I am, okay? So he's been practicing for as long as I have been alive. And yet, he specifically felt some type of way because I, as an indigenous female, began to ask these questions regarding an indigenous elderly person who they were intending on taking advantage of. And that is a fact. That is a fact, and the record reflects that regarding the motion that he filed when I presented to the court that I was not in any way coming before the court as an attorney, but that I was coming as the trustee of the May McLeod estate, and that as her trustee, I had every right to be involved in the matter and to speak on behalf of the trust that they wanted to ignore. The court granted his motion for him not to have to communicate with me in any way. And unless they have stricken that from the file that is connected to Matrix Financial Services versus May E. McLeod and Vera Jones regarding 1361 South 46th Street, and as a foreclosure matter, then it is a part of the file of the public record. The Court of Common Pleas, the attorneys of record, did not want anyone to speak up on behalf of senior citizen, indigenous woman whom they were intending to take advantage of. And that is a fact. Okay.
And did.
And did. Absolutely.
And did. Came in with guns.
On October 6th, 2021.
Yes.
Okay.
Guns.
At 9 o'clock in the morning, they were going to kill us over some land and property that they were not entitled to. Not entitled to at all. And the individuals, all of the individuals involved were placed on notice throughout the entire time. They all knew what was going on, especially all of the lawyers, okay? All of the attorneys. I don't even want to call them lawyers, okay? Because an attorney, the term attorney within the United States and American, when you're dealing with American jurisprudence, it is a specialized term, okay? It is a specialized term, attorney, okay? So what we have here is, along with all of the agents of the city, you also have these different businesses that are working along with them. And like my mother indicated, they are all colluding together, okay? They're all conspiring and colluding together to dispossess specifically indigenous peoples of land that they have inherited, because our family has actually lived in the city of Philadelphia and the southwest Philadelphia area for over 100 years, and we have always owned property, always. Okay, so continue.
Yes. So anyway, I'm listening to you and I'm getting a little sidetracked because my brain is just like, thinking about things.
Okay, well, let me help you to get back on track. Because we are talking about now. You had mentioned, and this is why I began to speak about the fact that when you became the legal guardian, there were a lot of unpaid bills.
Yes.
Okay. And my grandmother had
unpaid bills, just so many unpaid bills, and so many things that that people were, even just other people that was just trying to come in and steal things from her and everything, and I'm just like trying to catch up with this and catch up with that. So it was like a whole lot of phone calls I had to make, and try to catch her up on all different things. And then at the same time, people are still trying to come in and take and steal from her. You're calling them up, or, you're answering the phone saying, don't call here no more. They're ignoring you. They're getting other people in on it, like a woman called up before, this is the office, and, it was just horrible. It's like, they don't care.
An overwhelming number of individuals were targeting my grandmother. And if my mother was not there to answer the phone on her behalf and to keep the wolves at bay, who knows what would have happened. Well, actually, there was a situation that happened where someone tried to kill my grandmother.
More than once.
How about, why don't we share, because these are all of the events that have occurred that led up to the October 6, 2021, okay? Because the city of Philadelphia, everyone involved, all the agents, including the alleged the owner. He is not the owner. This is private property, and it still belongs to the tribe, okay? It still belongs to, it is our property. It is an asset that belongs in our trust.
He's a lawyer.
And so at this time, oh, did you say he's a lawyer?
He's a lawyer.
Yes, he's an attorney. So he is very much aware of what is happening. See, this is you know, this is what is happening in the city of Philadelphia. This is what is happening in the city of Philadelphia. And these attorneys, the Pennsylvania Bar Association, the courts of common pleas, even the federal courts, they're all in on it. Every last one of them. So here we are. There was a what year was it? Was it like around 2014 or before that? That while my grandmother was on her way home one day, she was at her door. Someone cracked her over the head with something and cracked her skull, and she was bleeding profusely. Again, thank Yah, okay, that my mother was actually there at the house, because and as my grandmother was entering the house, she heard her, came downstairs, and you can tell the story.
Yes,
firsthand information from the individual who saw this.
Yes, it's like blood, like somebody done cracked her over her head. I had to take her to the hospital, always at the hospital with her, because people are trying to kill her.
For her property.
Okay? And then the last time that they tried to kill her, I mean, they went all out. It was like really, really horrific. Whereas when I was at the hospital, they had to bring in the plastic surgeons. Her head was cracked all the way down to her skull.
And because, I'm sorry, not to interrupt, because, people might think that we are, we're just being bombastic about the details and the facts. No. This is the first time that, I had to start to go public because they are trying to kill me. And we need to get the word out. Okay? We need to get the word out to, to the children of Yah, and to those who have a good heart, so that they can understand that these foreclosures, they are a fraud. They are a fraud. And the primary individuals who are behind it are the attorneys, which means that the Bar Association is behind it. All right, you can continue. So we have evidence because she went to the hospital, which means there are hospital records.
Yes.
Okay, so a plastic surgeon.
Yes, a plastic surgeon. They came. They wanted me to see, because I guess it was like unbelievable to them what was going on. They had to come in with what they call the suits. They cover all the way up.
Oh, the
hazmat suits. They came in. They had me come in because they wanted me to see how her head looked, and they did not prepare me for it. So when I went in, I had to turn away and I had to say, just a minute. I just had to really get myself together to go in to witness what they wanted me to see. And I tell you, and they told me they was going to have to, they needed a plastic surgeon to try to put her back together. Her head was fully open.
Do you hear this?
Her head was fully open.
These people, your government, okay? Because we are a part of an indigenous nation. We know what the colonizers did to our ancestors when they came here. And quite often today, educated people will say, well, that's water under the bridge. Or as the lawyer who has now purchased, okay, at the foreclosure sheriff's cell, my grandmother's house. He said he didn't care about 300 years of history. That is what his mantra was while he was standing outside with the Philadelphia Sheriff's Task Force, with a helicopter going over us. Oh, yes. Okay, I'm not that creative.
They had shields and guns.
Yes, they did.
Helicopters and police and sheriffs and, they had it all.
Oh,
they broke in.
Oh yeah, they
coming.
did.
They was coming to kill us, and it was like the the holy brother, the brother of the cloth, had to speak to them.
Oh, the priest,
The
the
priest
Aboriginal priest.
had to speak to them to ask them not to come in and kill us, because they was coming in with guns drawn to kill us. Yes.
Now, mind you, they had already attempted to kill my grandmother several occasions prior to this. They even made an attempt on my life in 2015. I was poisoned. And this was regarding, the place where I was staying. And I didn't at the time understand what was going on. I thought it was just a simple landlord-tenant matter. But here, but then things begin to unfold. A series of events begin to unfold. So let's continue with the events that led up to October 6th, 2021.
Well, all I know is that they try this with everybody, and they try to get you through your bills and all that. I remember going down to the revenue department with my mother before. She was so behind, and this was even years before that. She was behind in her bills, and I had to go down there with her, and she had me writing checks, paying her bills. Yes, I had to pay her bills for
And this
years.
was and this
And that
was
was even
before
before all of this.
2011.
Before that, I had to go down there and pay her bills. Yes, many times, matter of fact. I remember one time being like really sick, like so sick, I just thought that I wasn't going to even be here no more. And even though I think she was taking advantage of my illness, but she had me down there. I couldn't even stand in line. She had me down there writing checks to pay her bills.
So the significance of this story here is that one of the things that the lawyer, the attorney who purchased my grandmother's property was monitoring outside on October 6, 2021, is that he had purchased the house at a sheriff's sale, and that, whatever agreement she made with the bank, she had defaulted on that agreement. And, that's just not the case here, because what my mother is saying is that in the event that there was an issue, that we would have paid the bills. Again, my family has lived in Southwest Philadelphia, which is what they call University City now, okay? Because that's what colonizers do. They come in, they move you out, and before they move you out, they start renaming stuff, because that's a part of the strategy in terms of also them causing confusion historically. It makes it a little bit more difficult for you to find the truth about things when they just keep renaming places.
Right. And another thing they did purposely was when people wouldn't listen to them in the beginning, when they was trying to get people to sell their homes and everything, they removed the mailbox. There's no mailboxes in that neighborhood because they removed the mailbox purposely so that they wouldn't have a mailbox. Then they went even further and they destroyed the elementary school for the children to go to and turned it into a dorm for the college.
Again, these are all tactics that the colonizers use against indigenous peoples or indigenous populated areas. Indigenous populated areas. Okay, now when I say indigenous, many of you may not know that you are indigenous, okay? But in the law, what has happened, and I'm going to repeat this because it is what has happened. with the stroke of a pen, they wrote you out of history as being indigenous, and they relabeled you. And what did they relabel you as? They placed titles on you such as colored, black, Negro, African American, Hispanic, etc. Now, that information may be uncomfortable for your ears to hear, but it is a fact. Okay, continue. Let's state, because we're, there are a series of things, of events that occurred, as a part of the strategy of the University of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia College of the Science, Philadelphia of the Science, because they changed the name. Remember, there was a name change of some of these colleges also. And we have lived in this area, again, for quite some time. So we knew them by their old names and we know them by their new names. My family has lived in Southwest Philadelphia prior to even there being concrete streets. There were streams and creeks that flowed, that flowed freely. Springfield Avenue, there was a spring, an actual spring, and there still is. It's just paved over. Okay? These are stories that my grandparents, who are no longer here, my grandmother is my last grandparent, but I had older grandparents. And these are the stories that they told family members and they told me. So if they were alive during these periods, it gives you an idea of how long my family has lived in the city of Philadelphia, in the Southwest Philadelphia area. Yes, I have other family members who were forced to immigrate from the South because of what was happening as far as the Trail of Tears and everything and what was happening down there. But I also had family members up here. Okay? Now, or we had family members who lived up here.
Yes.
Again, this is about the situation that happened here. On this date, at that time, and when they came, ready, willing, and able, and but for the Aboriginal priests, they would have killed us. That is what this is about, because it's about what we personally experienced, and also the complaints that have been coming through the courts regarding the takings, the unlawful and fraudulent takings of other nationals' property, their land, how they have been forcibly removing indigenous peoples from their land once again. So while 300 years of history may not be important to you today, how about 300 years of ongoing and continuous genocide and forced removal of property from property and lands that has never stopped? It may not be happening on such a wide scale now. I mean, because today they kill us and
yeah.
they're killing us left and right, shooting us dead in the streets.
Children and everything, they don't care.
And it's the excuse, they try to overshadow that with black on black crime, as if that excuses what they're doing to us in secret. Because a lot of this is happening and nobody is saying anything. It has been happening. The unlawful foreclosures have been taking place in Philadelphia for years. Flagstar has been stealing property from people for years. There are articles that go back before my grandmother actually allegedly entered into the mortgage with them. Now, we don't have we're not going to, this is part 2. Part 3, we're actually going to provide you with the evidence. We're going to provide documentary evidence to support all of the assertions that we are making here. And if you, the viewer, if you have any questions, we are here. We will give the names of all the attorneys. We will give the names of all the agencies that we contacted, the agents who work for those agencies. You see, one of the things we have to stop doing is referring to these entities that are not humans as being the defendants or the perps. It's people. It is the agents who work for these organizations and agencies. It's not the city of Philadelphia. It's the agents.
The agents.
They're people. It's not the Philadelphia Sheriff's Office. It's the people who work for the Philadelphia Sheriff's Office. It's not the Pennsylvania Bar Association. It's the attorneys who are members of the Pennsylvania Bar Association. And believe me, we're only talking about Pennsylvania in this particular video because the events happen directly to us. They happen directly to us, and we are here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which, as per Aboriginal land, is known as Turtle Island. Sheckamexim. Amaru. Okay? The United States Corporation, the City of Philadelphia, Incorporated, sits on Aboriginal land. So while that may not be relevant or significant to any of the attorneys who are out here stealing land from people, and yes, I did say that, any of the attorneys, because when you dig and you dig and you dig, you find that there's always an attorney that's behind something. Even the mortgage company, the documents went all the way back to an attorney. Yeah. Attorneys. No one is ever looking at the attorneys. And any attorney who dares to speak out, they come after you. They want to execute you, assassinate you, disbar you without due process. Yes, the Pennsylvania Bar has disbarred me. I have no idea why. But it gives them, another tool to use when I show up on behalf of Indigenous people to tell me you can't represent them because you have been disbarred. And they have said this and they use it. And I tell them that even based upon their own laws, I do not even have to be licensed to represent someone. Because guess what? Representation is based upon what? It's contractual. And the only reason why these wicked people even decided to start requiring licenses to practice law, to engage in law, to engage in advocating on behalf of other people, was because Aboriginal people, people who were of a darker hue, began to apply for their law schools and were coming out in hopes of being able to advocate on behalf of their own people. But even then, they discriminated against us and refused, even though they say that the exams are anonymous, but they refused to allow our people to pass the bar, the anonymous bar. So this is some history. All this stuff is history, and it can be found. It is published. I do a lot of reading and studying, as many educated people do. But none of that matters, because to them, the only thing they see is them taking what it is that belongs to us. They despise the fact that we have a nation. Our nation is not a belief. It is a reality. We existed before the United States did. We're not made up. It's not a fairy tale. It's not an Easter bunny. It's not a
Satan Claus.
A Satan Claus. It's not a. What other holidays do they celebrate?
It's not a turkey.
It's not a turkey where they're actually celebrating, them assassinating us, giving thanks to them killing us, just like they were celebrating on October 6th, 2021 at 9 o'clock in the morning. I am here to do damage. We don't care that you have an elderly individual who lives here. We are here to do damage.
Those are their words.
Those are their words. That is what the sheriff and the attorney, now that I know that the owner of NIS LAR LLC is an attorney. Real estate attorney. These attorneys are out here stealing indigenous property and killing senior citizens for their property. Yeah, I said it, because you tried to kill my grandmother. You tried to kill her for her property, and that didn't work. So then when I began to ask questions regarding the mortgage documents, you then tried to behead me. And then, along with the Pennsylvania Bar Association, you thought that you could what? Destroy me, make me shut up, because you what? You took what? You took my license away? I don't need a license to advocate on behalf of indigenous people. We were here before you. And as your Supreme Court states, no commonwealth or state can prevent anyone from engaging in their professional practice. A license is not required. I took exams. I passed those exams. I advocate on behalf of my people. I am the U.S. consul of this nation. It is my duty and my responsibility to speak and advocate on behalf of the indigenous people. And I'm definitely going to speak on behalf of my blood family. You were coming in to kill my mother and my grandmother. And yes, I stood there defending them. And so the sheriff who made a comment about this being embarrassing, you should be embarrassed. We don't hurt anybody. We don't bother anybody. I have committed my life to advocating on behalf of people. I wrote letters to all 3 bar associations that I was a member of, telling them that I could no longer pay dues to them because of my position and my responsibility and my duty to my nation. It creates a conflict of interest when you are an attorney and you work for the United States government or any of their subsidiaries. It is a conflict of interest. So we are, these are the facts. This is the reality of the situation. This is what is happening out here. We have had the unfortunate experience of having this experience firsthand. But prior to me having this experience firsthand, I have clients. There are nationals. Even before I became the JC, there were individuals who were going through foreclosure issues here in the city of Philadelphia, having to deal with the fraud that's affiliated and associated with it. If I had not gone through what I had to go through personally, including filing, because when they filed suit against my grandmother and my mother, and we're going to get to that, like why? Because we're talking about, 1361 South 46th Street being, my grandmother's home for approximately 30 years plus, right?
Plus, yeah.
But what happened was when my mother became the legal guardian of the property because she had no prior knowledge of this. But when she became the legal guardian and she obtained a copy of the deed, she saw that my grandfather, her father, my grandmother and my grandfather, her parents, they were never married, but he purchased the house, or at least put the money down for the house for my grandmother, but he also had my mother's name put on the deed. That is what my grandfather did. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So when I came on the scene and I saw the original documents that were presented, and I saw on the intake form that it said that my grandmother was the sole owner of the property and that there was no one else on the deed, I said, this is a fraudulent mortgage. From the document, my specialty was contracts. It still is. All indigenous matters, all matters in life are contract. All. From the face of the document, it was a fraud. This is what I pointed out in the interrogatories. This is why they wanted to know who was helping this woman we have tried to kill. Who is helping them? These are ignorant people, ignorant folk. They don't know nothing. You know, these people are so easy to just come in and do anything to, and whatever you do to them, they will just turn the other cheek and go quietly about their business. So when I presented those questions to them, Michael Baumstein, and you can look him up, 45 years of practice here in the city of Philadelphia, oh yes, decided that he was going to file a motion so that he would not have to deal with me, because at the time my bar dues had not been paid. So on October 6th, 2021, at 9 o'clock, and they were on time, at 9 o'clock in the morning, the Philadelphia Sheriff's Department. Can you see that? I want you to see. Can you see that? Let's say October 6th, 2021, 9 o'clock a.m.
And they called for backup. The helicopters.
Oh, yeah.
The police officers.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that came out with the shields. What they call
it? Was like
the,
SWAT.
SWAT team coming to
it was
get
like
us.
It was like we had an army.
Wow.
At 1361 South 46th Street. It was like we had our own personal army.
We had our own personal army.
Oh, yes.
They treated us like they was doing a drug bus.
A drug bus or a terrorist bus or whatever.
Something. Whatever it was, they act like it was a whole house full of people loaded with ammunition, firing at them. I mean, it was an act of war. Yeah. And so at this moment, okay, I just want the United Nations to know, all of you individuals who call yourselves, civil rights activists, all you activists who are out here, Black Lives Matter. Where were all of you when this happened? Where were all of you? Oh, that's right. Not Black Lives Matter. You didn't exist at that time. But let us not forget how this is the city of Philadelphia. And in the city of Philadelphia, we drop bombs on indigenous people. Yes. Don't forget
That's what we do.
The move.
That is what the city of Philadelphia agents does. Mm-hmm. That is what happens here in the city of Philadelphia. Oh, yes. When you are indigenous, that's what happens to you. Because you don't know your place. So-called white people, and I say so-called because there's no such thing as white people, just like there's no such thing as black people. These are all misnomers that have been legally written into their laws. Before these terms were created, white people had their nation's titles. So-called white people. If they were from Ireland, they were called Irish. If they from the UK, they called British. They're from German, they call German. German. They're from Germany, they're called Germans. Okay, but they come over here into America, and it's like make believe country, so we just gonna make up some stuff. We're gonna pretend like there were no people here. We're gonna pretend like the ones we didn't kill, don't exist. This is what happened. And so when Matrix Financial, as a third party assigned by Flagstar Bank, filed suit against my grandmother and my mother, what I did was, because, I was an educated individual, I took the property in 2016 and I created a trust and I put everything into a trust. And I explained to my mother why I was doing that and how we would now operate as a trust. Boom. That's what I did. Oh, they didn't want to hear about that either in the interrogatories. So throughout the legal process, it went from the suit that was filed against May McLeod and Vera Jones to now John Doe and occupants. Any kind of way, any kind of what they call loopholes. But okay, but this is like a loophole to get around having to name the actual living beings who are inside. Despite the fact that they knew that, number one, there's a lien on the property because the trust put a lien on the property. Oh, yeah. The trust put a lien on the property. I created the trust. The trust owns everything. Okay? The trust paid silver for the land. So this is the indigenous individual who just so happened to be an attorney, but not of the correct color persuasion. This is what she did for her family to protect them from the thieving wolves that were coming after them. And because she used all of these legal tactics, legal strategies, right? They then tried to kill her. Assassinate her character. They tried all of these things. They did not care what any other attorney was doing. They did not. It did not matter that they were stealing property from senior citizens. So, where are we today in terms of, what has transpired
from that day?
From this day. Like what has been, your mental state? What has been grandmom's mental state? Because this is a woman who has lived in that house for approximately 30 years. She has dementia.
Over 30 years.
Yes, that's right. Over 30 years.
Hold on, 40 years.
She has, full-blown dementia. And And now she's in a different place. She's in a different place because of their greed, of their wickedness, of their hatred. Because this what we saw on October 6, 2021 was just hatred. You should have seen their eyes. You should have seen the crowd. I'm surprised no one recorded the situation, like just what was happening outside. The neighbors, they all came and they were watching like it was some kind of reality show. Like, they were just watching. They came out of their houses. They were. Why don't you talk about that?
And disbelief. They was in disbelief. They was in shock. Like, the neighbors came from around the corner. They was like, why is it, like, why would they do that to Miss May? Like, she done been here for years, and they, she's a senior citizen. Why would they do that to her?
Well, to answer that question, coming out of their own mouths. Sheriff Daly, I remember his name because he was the main one talking. I don't care. I don't care. I'm here to do damage. The words.
He loved his job.
Coming out of his mouth.
Loved his job. Loved his job. And they just came in.
They did not present any court orders, nothing. Mm-hmm. And any court orders that they attached to these documents, they were not signed. There was no wet signature. In law, all legal documents must have a wet signature. You see, this is the problem our ancestors had to go through when the colonizers came and they were taking land from them and breaching treaties.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. We've been on for almost an hour, so we're actually going to pick up with a part 3, and with part 3 we will have the documents. Let the documents speak for themselves. Let the public review the documents that educated attorneys, judges, other professionals, and other agencies ignored, evidencing the fraud. Oh yes, we have a list of agencies we contacted and provided the evidentiary documents to. So at this juncture, we don't trust anyone. This is why we have turned to the public. We have to get our message out however we can, because these individuals, they do what they want, when they want, to whomever they want, under the guise of a legitimate government. It is not a legitimate government. These are thugs, with degrees or something. That's all they are. Thugs with degrees. And they protect each other, and they're out for blood. They are out for blood. They want land, and they're coming for it. I'm pretty sure we are not the only ones this has happened to. I know we are not the only ones. As far as the extent that they went to, maybe it was because of who I am, who I represent, what it is that I have done, turning my back on the Bar Association. Maybe that's how they look at it. But guess what? The blood that runs through my veins is because of my grandmother and my grandfather and their parents who are connected to this land. And we won't even go back as far as, other land that we're connected to, but definitely connected here. Salagi and Blackfoot, that's who we are. I know who I am. I have always known who I am. And so with that, we will have a part 3. And in part 3, it'll be the evidence. And we'll discuss some other things as well. So with that, we're going to say good night. And we're going to thank Yahuwah the Elohim of all. The Elohim of all. And we ask for his forgiveness if we have, committed any sin, known or unknown, in presenting this video. We praise Yah. We thank Yah every day for the gifts, for the blessings, for the lessons. And yes, they are painful.
And that was a lesson.
An eye-opener. There is no that's water under the bridge. Yah has shown us. It's like in Jeremiah, when he asked Jeremiah, Jeremiah, what do you see? What do you see, Jeremiah? What did everyone on 46th Street see on October 6th, 2021 at 9 o'clock in the morning? What did you see? What did you see happening? What did you see when they took our belongings? They went in, they broke into our private property. Yeah, it was a break-in. That's a breaking and entering, okay? Because the property is not theirs. I don't care what any court document says. Documents contrived fraudulently, that's first year law school. And you can read a contract book, a simple one, to know that the contract is void ab initio. And any judge sitting on a bench here in the city of Philadelphia or anywhere else in the nation that disagrees with that, you need to be disbarred. The level of competency. You are public servants, and you are allowing for this to happen knowingly. You are knowingly allowing it to happen. When you took your oath, and I've been hearing things about a private oath. I know the oath that I took was to the Constitution, to uphold and to defend against foreign and domestic terrorists. My duty is to ensure that people's rights are not violated. And you, based upon that oath, are violating your oath of office. You are violating your oath of office. I've never seen any other oath of office. So, I've heard about it, from other people, but I have never seen it. I can only speak about what I know. Factually. Personally, I have had these experiences. I have had clients who have had these experiences. As an attorney, I can speak on what I have attested to. The oath that I took when I was sworn in to become a member of the bar. Now, if there is some other type of oath that is taken, and that oath is to cause harm, pain, and injury, and to violate people's human rights, I don't know anything about that oath. I do not know anything about it. I don't know about it. I have not seen it. I know about the oath that I took. And I know that I wasn't the only one who took it. There were other people in the room with me. So if there's some clandestine oath that is taken by attorneys to seek and destroy humans, violate people's human rights, ignore the law, because it actually appears that way. But I have never seen it in person. But Yah says to Jeremiah, what do you see, Jeremiah? And what I am seeing is that perhaps those individuals who have asserted that this does exist, perhaps they are correct. Just because I don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Just because I didn't see it happen doesn't mean it's not happening. And so with that, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Yes, I want to say how they went in, they broke up my mother's belongings. They kept some belongings.
Oh yes, they stole.
They distribute them throughout the community. But I am just happy and pleased that the community could use what it was that they distributed all over the sidewalks and the streets up and down the block.
Yes.
Okay, because we originally was going to hand out things to our people anyway.
We were, because 1361 South 46th Street was in trust and it was being utilized as the office of the Aboriginal Court, as well as recently the National Indigenous Law Center. We had always been taking inventory with everything that's happening in the world. We were preparing. We saw that our neighbors were probably not preparing for what's coming, and so that's what we were doing. And so yes, we had inventory, and yes, we know everything that we had. So everything that has been stolen and damaged, we have an accounting of it. We have an accounting of it. The IRS was put on notice that this event was going to be happening on October 6th, and they will be put on notice through filings of 1099s, as well as other documents that it occurred, and that yes, we are going to we're going to get everything back, and hopefully we will be able to continue with stocking items, because at this juncture there is a shortage of items now because of what has been happening in terms of imports. And if you're unaware of that, then I would advise you to go watch some of the I think the Epic Economist. It's a very good YouTube channel that keeps you informed of what is happening in the economy, and how whatever is happening is affecting us, the people. It is affecting the people. And I'm not just talking about Indigenous people, I'm talking about everyone. Okay? So while all this other stuff is happening and you have all these distractions, there are some things that are coming down the pipeline. And so the items that they stole, okay, the items that were stolen from the house, these were items that we were stocking, so that when those times came, that we would actually be able to help our people. Okay, so unfortunately, these people came in, they wanted to kill us, and I guess when they were disappointed that they couldn't kill us, and so they just decided to destroy a lot of my grandmother's property, to even take, because we were very organized, our house was very clean, but they decided to take things out of bins, and I guess they kept the bins. All right, they threw stuff in trash bags. They wanted to make it look like I guess that we weren't living well. I don't know what they were trying to do, but to go along with the the dramatization, I guess, of everything, they had to make it look a certain way, because of the way that they came out. We to them were just, they wanted to make it appear as if we were some people who got a mortgage and didn't pay our mortgage, and so this is why it was happening. No, that's not what happened. That is not what happened. At no time, and we'll go over the documents, because the documents, clear fraud. As we mentioned, my mother did not know that her name was even on the deed until 2016. So in 2011, when my grandmother allegedly entered into this contract, how could my mother sign any documents? Especially after I began to inquire and to put them on notice that my grandmother was not the only name that was on the deed. Then miraculously, now documents appear with the scribbling of her signature. So you're on notice. No matter what you do, it's not going to be good enough. We're good because we have Yah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. We have Yah. All praise. All praise Yah. All praise Yah.
All praise.
All praise. And it is His law that controls. His laws are first, not man's laws. Not laws that man could just write and change whenever he so chooses. Not laws that, he can just write against one people and use the same laws to protect other people. These are thieves. They are thieves. Fill up your sheriff's office. Thieves, robbers, murderers. Murderers. They came with the intent to kill.
We have to give all thanks and praise to Yah that we are still alive.
Alive to tell our story.
Yes.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Yeah. Hallelujah.
All praise Yah. All praise. And I am thankful also because they tried to kill me. They poisoned me.
Even before all this.
Even before this, So it's like, how many times, what did I say? In part 1, Yah will have mercy upon who Yah chooses to have mercy upon. Is it easy? No, it isn't. It's not easy because they make it very difficult. In this world, they rule by might. There's no other law. They think that they are above the law, and they act as if they are above the law. They stalk, they harass, they kill.
Oh, yeah. Forgot to tell you about that. Sitting outside, watching us on a daily basis. Yes, they were doing that.
They were doing it then, and they still do it.
They're still doing it.
They evicted. They call it an eviction. They evicted us from our own territory.
And because we are not out laying in the streets, they continue to terrorize us.
They're still terrorizing us and engaging in, harassing.
And trying to probably evict us from where we're at now.
Oh, yes. But we're gonna get into that we'll save those stories, because I believe in the beginning, if I didn't, I will let you know this now, that yes, when I mentioned that they are targeting my family, okay? This is not the only home that they have taken. They also took my father's home. Yes, they did. They fraudulently contrived a water bill. He went numerous times to inquire about it, to try to, remedy the matter. They didn't want to listen to him. His home went into foreclosure for $3,000. Let's say less than 4, because I'm not really sure of the exact number, but we'll provide you again with the evidence. We do have the documents, and again, there are attorneys that are behind this. Everyone who is involved, there are attorneys, and I stress that because attorneys are supposed to advocate on behalf of the rights of people. And since when did it become lawful for thieves, robbers, and murderers to just be able to steal, rob, and kill? Oh, that's right. It's always been lawful for them to do that. That's what they've been doing since day 1 of arrival.
Yeah.
So we thank Yah for lending his ear to us, and being with us during this share and this recording. And we thank Yah for all of the viewers who we have been able to reach to share this story, to share this lesson. Okay, we don't want to say story, because when people think stories, they think, oh, fairy tale. This is reality. This is reality. This is reality. This was our reality, and we have numerous witnesses. Scripture says 3 witnesses. We have witnesses. We have witnesses. And so on that, we say, Todah, Todah, Todah to Yah, and we end with an Amen. And we shall see you in part 3.
Amen.
Amen.